Welcome to the MLFF podcast with your host, Commissioner B. Jack.
Welcome into episode 17, New Year edition. Hey, it's championship week. Hope everybody had a Merry Christmas, but I'm on vacation this week, and spending my free time doing this is a lot less fun than wasting time at work, so we go turbo mode today. There are no Saturday games this week. Let's get to it.
Let's go!
We'll do it live! Fuck it!
Cody defeats Jose by 9 points, the narrowest margin of victory this week with a 75% optimal lineup to Jose's 93%. Devontae Adams had 2 catches, Ramondre fumbled twice, losing 1, Tua threw 3 interceptions, and they all took a fat shit. Tua also put himself back into the NFL's back injury protocol after the game. Devin Singletary, though, had a surprisingly solid game, and DJ Moore is apparently the only receiver that gets better with Sam Darnold on the field. Travis Kelce went over 100 receiving yards again, but hasn't caught a touchdown in 4 weeks. Cody did leave the QB2 on his bench, though, with 32 fantasy points. Joe Mixon and Terry McLaurin had alright days, and Greg Dulcich was doing fine before pulling a hammy. Tom Brady sucked, though, and DeAndre Swift and Aaron Jones ate shit. Cody's 110 points was the fewest points scored in a win this week, but still would have beaten 5 other teams. Jose's 101 points was the least points scored this week.
I shit myself!
And the combined 212 points was the lowest scoring game this week, the 156th lowest all time. Jose will now compete for the 3rd draft position while Cody advances to contend for the 1st overall pick. Jake defeats Timmy by 22 points with a 94% optimal lineup to Timmy's 92%. TJ Hawkinson had a monster game against the Giants, and James Conner turned the Bucs defense into Swiss cheese. Jacoby Myers was having a shit game against the Bengals until he caught a deflected ball in the end zone for a 48-yard touchdown. A-Raj had another mediocre game, and Protestant Kirk and Stephon Diggs both sucked a fat one. Derek Carr is steaming shit, though, having thrown 3 interceptions against the Steelers and earning himself a spot on the Vegas bench. Cancer Poop Patterson also sucked, taking a backseat to Tyler Algier, who had a solid game against Baltimore. George Kittle had a huge day that would have been good for tight end 1 in the week if not for the hawk strap on the other side of this matchup. Timmy will now compete for the 3rd draft position while Jake advances to contend for the 1st overall pick. Spencer defeats T-Bear by a 10-point margin for his 4th win in a row.
Boom shakalaka!
With a 96% optimal lineup, the most optimal lineup in the semifinals. T-Bear's lineup was 74% optimal, the least optimal lineup this week, and the loss snapped his 3-game win streak. Protestant Watson was cooking before he was forced out of the game with a hip injury. Mahomes, Burrow, Playoff Lenny, Austin Eckler, Devonta Smith, and Justin Jefferson all had great days, but canceled each other out. The most consequential performance, however, came from DeAndre Hopkins. He saw 10 targets, but that doesn't mean shit when they're coming from 3rd-string QB, Trace McSorley, and he was only able to corral 1 pass for 4 yards. It might be easy to say that T-Bear should have started Cam Akers, who left a near 40-point performance on his bench, but only somebody who forgot to check their lineup would have played him against what was supposed to be a tough matchup. It is worth mentioning, however, that T-Bear's optimal lineup would have put up 187 points. Spencer's 148 was the most points scored this week, 157th most all-time. T-Bear's 139 points was the most points scored in a loss this week, but would have lost to 5 other teams, and the combined 287 points was the highest scoring game in the semifinals, the 67th highest all-time. T-Bear will now compete for 3rd place while Spencer advances to the championship. Brian defeats Dantos by 29 points.
That's a lot of damage!
The largest margin and the most improbable victory in the semifinals, with an 88% optimal lineup to Dan's 83%. It was the 236th largest blowout all time, and the win was my 3rd in a row.
He's on fire!
Gardner Minshew filled in admirably for Jalen Hurts, feeding A.J. Brown over 100 receiving yards. Side note, the Brown-Gardner stack just doesn't have the same ring to it, and sends a completely different message. George Pickens and Quan Bark both found the end zone, and Jalen Waddle caught an 84-yard bomb touchdown. Deonta Foreman and Brian Robinson both had tough matchups, but Foreman torched the Lions, and Bullet Hole Brian got stuffed by the Niners D. David Njoku sucked, and the Broncos defense never took the field. The number 2 defense on my bench was a nice touch, though. In that same game, though, the Rams fucking destroyed the Broncos as the number 1 defense on the week, and Russell Wilson is straight up garbage. Josh Allen threw 3 touchdowns, Jahan Dotson found the end zone, and Derrick Henry had a big game but still 100 yards and 1 touchdown short of his average when he plays the Texans. Josh Jacobs couldn't do shit against the Steelers, and Adam Thielen and Zay Jones combined for 20 yards on 2 catches. Gerald Everett was fine with just running routes all day. Dantos will now compete for 3rd place while I advance to the championship. With the semifinals complete, the final matchups are now established. With our victories over T-Bear and Dantos, Spencer and I now face off for the championship.
Look at us. Hey, Look at us.
Look at us. Huh? Who would have thought?
Not me.
T-Bear and Dantos square off to determine third place. John and Gardo compete for fifth place. Jake and Cody face off for seventh place. Jose and Timmy square off to determine ninth place. And lastly, in the toilet bowl, Ben and Rhino contend for last place. 9-seed Rhino versus 11-seed Ben in the toilet bowl. Rhino's a 15-point favorite, but is 0-2 against Ben all time. They last met 5 weeks ago, where Ben won by just over a point. Ben's 92 points is the lowest projection this week, and the combined 199 points is the lowest projected game this week, fitting for a matchup that will determine last place. This matchup dictates the 5th and 6th overall draft positions. 10-seed Jose versus 12-seed Timmy in the 9th place game. Jose is favored by 6 points and is 6-4 all-time against Timmy, beating him by 30 back in week 5. Timmy could potentially be favored once he subs out Derek Carr, who's been benched for being actual dog shit, but somehow is still projected for 13 points. The winner earns the 3rd overall draft position, and the loser takes 4th. It's worth mentioning, though, that Timmy's in possession of Jose's first-round pick next year. 8-seed Cody versus 7-seed Jake in the 7th place game. Jake's a 9-point underdog, but 4-2 against Cody all-time. Jake beat Cody by 20 points back in week 8. With a combined 250 points, this is the highest projected game in week 17. This matchup will determine the 1st and 2nd draft positions, which begs the question, if Jake wins, will the 1st overall pick be enough to retain him for next season? 6-seed Gardo versus 5-seed John in the 5th place game. Gardo's favored by 0.06 points in the narrowest projected margin this week. Gardo's 1-5 all-time against John, with his lone victory coming in week 7 of this year, where he won by 27. It's a matchup between the Cowboys' starting running back and the Cowboys' backup running back. Everything else is irrelevant. The winner is awarded the better draft position, 7th overall. 1-seed T-Bear versus 2-seed Dantos in the 3rd place game. T-Bear is a 37-point favorite in the widest projected margin on the week, and his 139 points is the highest projection this week. Dantos has the edge head-to-head versus T-Bear, 5-4 all-time against him, winning their last meeting by less than 0.6 of a point back in week 5. This matchup could also be referred to as the championship that everyone expected. The winner gets their $100 league dues back. 3-seed Brian versus 4-seed Spencer for the championship. So, by default, this is the game of the week. Spencer's an underdog by less than 2 points. I am 4-3 against Spencer all time, taking the lead in our head-to-head series with a 6-point win back in week 10. It's the championship that we deserve, but not the one we need right now, or some shit. Seriously though, nobody besides probably myself and Spencer are excited for this championship, but it is a matchup of two gritty teams that have endured all sorts of adversity this season. Catching T-Bear and Dantos on a down week certainly helps, but Spencer and I might also have been the two most active managers this season, and were clearly rewarded for it. Sure, there might have been some weird-ass weather last week, but in a couple years, nobody's going to remember any of that shit. I personally have already forgotten about it. What bomb cyclone? Nobody would ever say to us, you have no business being in the championship, or you don't deserve it. Or maybe they are saying that and I'm just deaf to it. I don't fucking know. Don't give a fuck. I don't remember where I was going with that, but I do know that while Spencer and I have combined for 5 trophies, this is our first time facing off in the championship. Let's make it a good one, Spence. The champion wins $600 and the loser takes the $300 second place prize. The league payout standings heading into the final week of League Pick'em. Dantos' lead has been whittled to 1 point with Jose in sole possession of second place. But there are still 6 managers that are mathematically within striking distance of winning the payout.
Look at this shit.
That is it. The Pro Bowl is week 18. This is another reminder that your division's Discord channel is open for you to communicate strategy and plan your lineup with your division mates. I've begun the process of setting up managers for each team. Each manager needs to join the Pro Bowl league. Once that process is complete, I personally will go in and add each manager's rosters to the corresponding teams, and then you can start modifying your lineups. That's a process that will be done before next week. Don't forget that the Pro Bowl lineups require exactly 3 players started from each manager's roster. Don't forget to submit the weekly pick'em. A link to the form can be found in the commissioner's note and also as a pinned comment in the Discord server. Whether or not you're excited about the championship, I personally don't give a flying fuck. But I do personally hope that you all kick back on New Year's Eve, raise a glass, and just enjoy football while it's still here. Not that you weren't going to do that anyways. Happy New Year, everybody. Be safe and responsible, and let's finish the season strong. Hey, Hey, don't forget to like and subscribe. Just kidding, eat shit.
Thank you for listening to the MLFF podcast.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live! And thing sucks!